This is the plaintiff, Susan Kernet. She says she hired the defendant to walk her two Labrador retrievers, and she told the woman that one of them, Newton, had a habit of eating things. She told her not to leave anything within his reach, and sure enough, she forgot his harness on the table, and Newton ate the plastic buckles. A few weeks later, Newton needed surgery because he had a blockage in his large intestine. That's when they removed the plastic buckle. The defendant refuses to take responsibility for her negligence and won't pay her the $5,000 she's owed. So she's suing. This is the defendant, Lisa. She says she hung Newton's harness on the coat rack, and when she returned, she noticed he had chewed on the plastic buckles. The plaintiff didn't seem too concerned, but then 4 weeks later, she's accusing her of almost killing her dog? Excuse you. Newton always eats stuff, and could have eaten anything in the 4 weeks it was since she walked him. She resents the accusation and refuses payment of any kind. She's accused of nearly knocking off Newton.
All parties, please raise your right hand. Welcome back to the People's Court. It's all about Newton the dog. The plaintiff says she warned the defendant to watch Newton because he eats everything and ate plastic and needed surgery. The defendant saying it didn't happen on her watch. It's the case of you eating that?
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Ms. Kernet, you have a couple of Labradors?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I hired Lisa to walk my dogs, and she did a good job. I liked Lisa. I thought she was very thorough. But the one thing that I said was nothing can be left within his reach because he has anxiety and he chews things. He already had 3 stomach surgeries.
This is which dog?
The black one.
So you have a black lab and a yellow lab?
Right,
okay.
The yellow one is fine. The black one, he has some kind of anxiety situation, and as a result of that, he swallows things. He swallowed 2 socks on 2 separate occasions. He swallowed a pair of my underwear, and he swallowed a washcloth. The socks and the underwear had to be removed surgically. He had 3 stomach surgeries prior to this.
How old is this dog is named Newton, right?
Yeah, Newton.
Okay, how old is Newton?
He's 5. This happened when he was 4.5.
Okay. All right, so you tell her you can't leave anything in sight because he'll eat everything in sight. And what happens?
What happened was I came back one day from work. And I found the harnesses that they wear with the buckles chewed. And I didn't really think anything of it. I mean, I thought that maybe, I would find it on the floor here. You could see the end of this that he chewed and the end of this. And I thought, well, maybe I'll sweep it up or find it on the floor, right? But about 2.5, 3 weeks later, he started getting sick. He was showing me signs of a blockage. I know this because it happened 3 other times. He didn't want to eat. He would moan. He wouldn't sleep. When a lab doesn't eat, there's something wrong. Immediately, I took him to the veterinary emergency hospital in Norwalk. It was a Sunday morning, and they x-rayed him, and the radiologist read the x-rays and said he has a blockage of some kind. I had no idea what it could.
Do you have the x-rays for me to look at?
No, but I have the pieces that they took out of his stomach.
Do you have the vet report for me to look at?
Yes, I do.
Did you submit that into evidence?
Yes, I did.
I don't have
these
that.
These are the plastic pieces.
No, my question is, do you have the vet report? That's my question right now. Do you have a report from the vet? Okay, so
I have the bill.
Okay, no, the bill just says there's
surgery.
a bill. Yeah, Ms. Kernet, I need you to listen to what I'm asking. Do you have, because I've read vet bills my entire life, I know how they look. Do you have a vet report that specifically says that what was causing the blockage was a piece of a harness?
No.
A buckle or anything like that?
I just have the report. No, I don't. I just have the report I just have the vet bill.
Right, so all you can prove from the vet is that there was a blockage from something. You can't prove what the blockage was from? Okay, so what makes you think that it was from this event?
Because when I spoke to the surgeon on the phone, and I said what caused the blockage, she said it was pieces of plastic, that black plastic, that were in his stomach that got caught up in the scar tissue from previous surgeries.
Okay, well, why don't you just prove that to me and give me something from the vet that says what you just said?
I would like to.
Did the vet give you the pieces that they extracted?
Yes, they did. I have them in here. Okay, Your Honor, it's labeled. Okay, and
okay, but who's it labeled by? It's labeled by you, not by the doctor.
No, it's labeled by the vet. It has the official here.
Please bring it very close to me so that I can read it.
Sorry,
because the picture you submitted into evidence. Okay.
What?
The picture you submitted into evidence doesn't have anything from the vet. So now I'm seeing something in your hands that actually has a label from the vet. So I'd like you to bring it.
I have the label from the vet.
Yes. So very slowly bring it right to the camera and stay there a second. Can you do that? Can you just stop going like this? Look at me. I need you to look at me. Look at me.
Okay, I'm trying. My
Lift
earphone
that.
keeps falling out. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Okay.
That's all right. Why don't
Go
you
ahead.
leave your hand at your earphone? Okay. Well, you can't leave both hands because I need one hand to bring that up to the camera so that I can read it. Okay. Now let me see what's inside. Can you kind of stretch it and show me what's inside? Can you open it and show me what's inside?
Sure.
So that's a piece of black plastic. And was there another piece in that same bag? Wait,
yeah,
I need you to listen to my questions and answer my questions.
Okay.
Show me the next piece that was in that bag. Bring it close to the camera. Another piece of black plastic. Okay. You can put that down. And are there any other pieces in there? Another piece of unidentifiable black plastic. Okay. And is there anything else in that bag?
Here's one of the teeth that go into the buckle.
It says you. I mean, I'm trying to identify
I know.
what is in your hands. And it's not quite as identifiable as you're leading me to believe. In other words, you submitted a picture into evidence. This is the picture that you submitted into evidence that is clearly a belt buckle. But this is not what, what you labeled this picture is buckle that, let's get the whole buckle that Newton chewed. Okay, so, but this is not, I don't, like, this is what is on the outside that we know he chewed. But what came out of Newton's stomach, you can put it down now. What came out of Newton's stomach, it's a lot harder to decide that that's a belt buckle. Did the vet say it was a buckle?
No, the vet
is that what the vet
told me that it was black plastic. That's
okay.
what. That's
Let me
what the
hear
vet
from you,
told me.
Lisa. According to you, tell me about Newton. How many times had you walked Newton before?
I didn't have a regular walk with her dogs. It was sort of as needed. So it was maybe once a week, but not every week. And you know, and I liked her too. And they're sweet dogs. And what happened to Newton is very sad.
Can you tell me how many times had you walked Newton before the day of the problem? How many times had you walked Newton?
Oh,
2 times?
yeah.
200 times? How many times had you walked Newton?
At least 10.
Okay. All right. So, and had she alerted you to the fact that, hey, Newton chews everything in sight, so don't leave anything lying around?
She said that he will chew on leashes and to put them in the other room, which I did on every occasion.
But you didn't. At one point, yeah, but hold on, except for this one. What did you do on this day?
On this day, I was coming back again in the afternoon, which normally I would just do one walk. So I left them out instead of putting them back because I would be back and I would take them out again. And
right,
that
but that's
was my
not,
mistake.
you know, the idea isn't, of course it was your mistake, because the idea isn't that you leave it in the place where you can save yourself 10 more feet of a walk. The idea is that you put them exactly where she's always instructed you to put them so the dog doesn't eat them. So you come back for the second walk and what happens?
and I found a bunch of pieces on the floor, and the buckles had been chewed on. The clasps were still attached to the fabric, but it was a well-worn harness and plastic, and one of them had chewed on this harness, and there were pieces all over the floor.
Okay.
And I picked them all up and I put them up high, and I texted Susan to tell her what happened, that other than that, they were okay, but that this did occur, so that she would know right away, and if any action
And
needed
what
to
did
be
she say?
taken. Like, she didn't seem concerned because they were fine. He wasn't sick right away. So and it didn't look like he swallowed anything because I picked up many pieces. So she said that's okay, he ate one last week or something like that.
Had Newton chewed on another harness or collar the week before?
He did, but he didn't break it apart. In other words, there were teeth marks on it, but he didn't get to it.
Okay. So you didn't bring Newton to the vet right away because you didn't think anything of what she told you. There didn't appear to be a problem. How do I know that whatever blockage right. So how do I know? How are you going to be able to prove to me that whatever blockage did occur, how many weeks later? It was 4 weeks later, right?
3.5 weeks, yeah.
3.5 weeks later, you've got to be able to link it to this event. How are we going to do that without the slightest bit of evidence from a vet that, in fact, whatever it is that Newton chewed, who we know, Newton chews everything. And we know that because we know it's a problem that you alert your dog walkers about. How are we going to know that it's this belt buckle, which she says all the pieces were there and she picked them up? I'm sure you didn't put them like a puzzle together, but she says everything appeared to be fine. The dog didn't appear to be in distress. How do we know it's this and not something else Newton chewed? How are you going to be able to prove that she should pay? How much are you asking for? $6,000 something in the stomach surgery. I've got to know that it came from this, and you haven't brought me one piece of evidence from the vet that says that it was a buckle, much less that it was, this buckle. I mean, according to you, all the vet says is it's black plastic. You're showing me pieces that look like black plastic. I can't identify what they are.
Big fight over Newton. The plaintiff says that she warned the defendant when the defendant was watching the dog. He eats everything. The defendant says no one told her about Newton. No one said this dog eats everything. Well, the dog ate plastic and needed surgery. Let's go back into the courtroom.
I'm sorry that this happened, but I don't think that something that happens 3.5 weeks later, and I don't even know from the vet whether that's typical that a blockage would sit around for that long. Maybe it could, but I know nothing because you have brought me none of the vet's notes, probably because they don't help you. And I've got to be able to know that it happened from this event to tell her, hey, lady, fork over $6,000 for these vet bills. The proof just isn't there, especially with the dog where we know that the dog ends up, chewing and biting on everything in sight, and we all have to be careful. I cannot say that you have proven by a preponderance of the evidence that these bills belong to Lisa to pay. My verdict in this case is for the defendant.
So the judge finds for the defendant in this case. We're going to talk to the plaintiff first. Ms. Kernett, I have to ask you a question. Number one, how do you respond to this fact that you lost the case?
Well, I just can't believe it. I mean, it's my fault because I probably should have gotten a statement from the veterinarian, but the vet couldn't say anything except that it was black plastic that they took out of his stomach.
Well, you're right. You should have had testimony from the vet. It would have helped you. Secondly, you have another big problem. You have a dog who's a pet, runs around your house, and will eat anything. How do you stop him? How do you control him?
Well, at this point, whenever he's not within my sight, he goes in a crate.
Well, that's one way. You could put a muzzle on him, or putting him in a crate even better. That's kinder. Listen, I feel for you. Pet owners all over the country could feel for you. That's a tough project. Thank you anyway. I'm sorry you lost the case, okay? Now let's talk to the defendant in the case. Lisa, I think you've got to be breathing a real sigh of relief, don't you?
Yeah, it was hard to to hear that news and then to be accused of negligence. That's really difficult. And luckily, he's okay.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you were surprised to get sued for more than $5,000. Anyway, congratulations. You don't have to pay. Okay.
Thank you.
And that'll wrap it up for this case. Let us now join Judge Millian and her husband, Judge John, once again for another session of After the Verdict.
So, Marilyn, here we have a case, again, where without expert testimony, there's just no way that a plaintiff is going to be able to close that circle and establish causation and collect damages.
Did you hear the last thing she said, though, which she never said in her complaint? It was, well, I didn't do that because all the vet could say is that it was black plastic. Right. Exactly. That's why you don't win the case, because you can't prove that it's this, everything is black plastic. I mean, if the dog chews everything inside, it could have been anything. Right. And when you're trying to pin $6,000 worth of bills on somebody, you know, you should have the vet report that either identifies the object, or if the vet can't, just have the vet report anyway so I can see what the vet says. But also, the vet could have said in the report, or she could have asked him to say, hey, could it be something that was 3.5 weeks in the making?
Right. I mean, that's very sad. It's been now, this dog's going to be 5 years old later this month.
With
already
5 surgeries or 4 surgeries.
At least 3 surgeries.
Yeah, horrible.
God forbid he gets a hold of
Yes, I got an idea. To train the dog.
Well, she says she's creating them when he's out of the sight.
She's creating them. Okay, that's better than nothing. But, you know, somebody professionally training there, it's got to be cheaper than the surgeries.
You would think so.
Lisa, I'm not trying to be funny, but if you're getting a dog, you should go on Yelp. If you want to rescue, make sure it's a reputable rescue organization and one that really looks out to make sure that the dog and you are a good fit.